Okay, we'll get better at that intro music thing in the future.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
another bust, I would say. I have to remember to listen to the whole song before I start playing it live. But anyway, this is once again the Chi-Town Fantasy Basketball podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find the audio only on archive.org. Let me just make sure I have that exact URL right. You can find our audio at archive.org/details/ Chi-Town B-Ball. That's ChitownBBALL, if you wanted to look that up. I'm on Twitter as Smokey Q Rivers, and if you wanted to tweet at Danny or Tommy, just tweet at me and I'll pass the message along to them because they don't have their own Twitter account. This week we're going to be talking about the Blake Griffin injury, the Eric Bledsoe injury, the Matt Barnes drama, and more. So we're going to start off with Blake Griffin. He played Saturday. It wasn't his best game, but he still went out there, had like 13 and 10, something like that. And then after the game, or the next day, it was announced that he had a partially torn quad. Does that sound right? Yeah. So, and he's going to miss at least the next 2 weeks. Daniel, you own Blake Griffin in our 10-team head-to-head league, and what are your thoughts on this injury?
Well, it was pretty brutal considering I already had Bradley Beal who was out and Rudy Gobert who was out as well, so this just became the third core player to go down for my team. Initially, when I saw 2 weeks, I thought it wasn't going to be too bad, but honestly, I don't like the reports of kind of out at least 2 weeks, and then other sites say out indefinitely. So I can see this being as an injury that kind of lingers for maybe 3-4 weeks. And I mean, it might not be like more than a month before he gets up to one full speed. So if you're holding on to Blake Griffin, I would suggest being very careful and expecting this to be more than 2 weeks. In my case, I decided to jump ship. I'm currently 4-4-1 in my league, and thought it was too risky. I was already in danger of possibly not making the playoffs if I lose another couple games and go a couple games below 500. So I actually decided to jump ship and trade him for his teammate DeAndre Jordan. I mean, face value, Blake Griffin's definitely the better player. The team I traded him to had a 6-3 record, so if you have a good team and you're able to absorb it, I mean, hang on to him or maybe try and trade for him, because I mean, if you're the other team that has him, could be like a 500 or struggling team that doesn't necessarily have the luxury of holding on a couple weeks to an injured player, like as in my case. So I decided to jump ship. Blake Griffin has been pretty good, but didn't quite fit the mold of my team, and I decided that I didn't have the luxury of waiting anywhere from 2 to, I don't know, could be up to a month. I don't know what you guys think on his injury.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm screen sharing just so everybody can see the full trade. So the full trade was Blake Griffin and Kyle Korver for Goran Dragic and DeAndre Jordan. The bulk of the trade being Griffin for Jordan, those being the two best players in there. But an underrated aspect of this trade to me is that while Blake Griffin is out, DeAndre Jordan is probably going to see more touches and probably see his scoring go up just a little bit, which is really helpful given the percentage he shoots. So that's going to be helping you out.
6 of 6 field goal today. So I mean, that guy, when he's doing is throwing down dunks, he gets some pretty crazy field goals.
Yeah, and if you think, I mean, Blake Griffin obviously brings more to the team than anybody on the Clippers bench. That's the understatement of the year. But with him out, they can roll out some interesting lineups where it's DeAndre Jordan and 4 people who can knock down a three-pointer. So they at least have there's a silver lining there for DeAndre Jordan. having the opportunity to feast with Blake out.
Yeah, and one aspect that a lot of times when people look at player rater, one of the things that happens is you have one specific category that dramatically weighs down a player, such as DeAndre or Drummond, these classic players that just have atrocious free throw percentage. In player rater, DeAndre's in the mid 70s, I believe, last time I checked, and this comes with like a -8 when it comes to free throw percentage. So my team was already tanking free throws. So for me, DeAndre was a perfect fit. Once you take into account like the fact that free throws don't matter, he becomes, I mean, top 10 or top 20 talent. So definitely, when you have a team, when you're considering trades like this, think about which categories you're kind of already weak or willing to tank altogether, and then you could kind of find hidden value. So while Blake Griffin is definitely the better player overall, for certain teams, I think Blake Griffin, I mean, DeAndre Jordan could actually be a better fit for your team.
Yeah, that's definitely true. He's at 68 on the player rater, with a total score of 4.16. But if you take out that -8.2, that bumps him up to about 12, which would easily put him in the top 10. Now, obviously, it's not that simple because you'd have to go in and adjust throw out everybody's free throw score, which I'm not going to do right now. So, but even then, he's clearly a top 15 caliber player for a punt free throw situation. So, and the other thing, I know it's mainly about Blake Griffin, but I thought the swap of Kyle Korver for Goran Dragic was fairly interesting. Both of them are kind of not doing too much this year. Dragic has shown some flashes lately. The assists are starting to come back, but he's still only averaging about 11, 12 points a game. I suppose the fact that you acquired him probably answers this question, but do you expect Goran Dragic to bounce up a little bit the rest of the year?
Yeah, this was not even a one-hit wonder. I think Goran Dragic had about 3 good years in him, so I think this has to be some sort of aberration. Not used to the system. I just feel he has to he's gonna get better. He's already played phenomenal basketball. I mean, he's not gonna go up to where he was in Phoenix, but I definitely see him improving. His points are a little low, but considering my team is also pretty bad in points, I'm essentially a pump free throw point team. So I thought Dragic would still be a nice fit because his points are low, but he still gives you a decent amount of assists, gets you a steal game, and I'm just trying to look for upside, especially when I make a late run push, and I think Dragic is one of those players that would not surprise me if his numbers crept up a little bit, especially with the history of Dwayne Wade. As you go later in the season, Dwayne Wade misses some games. A lot more of the possessions and touches are going to go to Dragic, so I see potential on that end as well.
Well, with Daniel's trade, I'm going to hit on a couple of some of my favorite topics here. So first and foremost, you mentioned player rater. And I'm pretty sure you have heard my conversation about my beef with player rater in the recent years. I don't think they really value players the way I guess maybe we see it. But obviously, just statistically, I am wrong. Because they have a very great, valuable system, whatever. But just take, for example, this is my beef. If somebody were to tell you, like in your case, okay, first and foremost, I think you got a great deal. I honestly do. I don't think, I don't think Brian Lynch got an edge over you. I think you ended up walking away with a better deal. And the reason for being is I think some of that contributed to the fact that DeAndre is so low on player rater and you might undervalue him. But it's all circumstantial, right? So for you, that trade, him even being a 68, that's huge for you. If you don't care about the free throw category, that guy is money. Like, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't even look at player. That guy is money. I mean, his field goal is phenomenal. Free throw, atrocious. You don't need him to drop 20 points, but he certainly has the potential to drop 20 points, not to mention the incredible amount of rebounds and the blocks that's going to be there on a consistent basis. And Smokey mentioned, Blake is out. So that means his production could drastically increase. Another player that you picked up on that trade, Goran Dragic. I'm going to tell you that is a phenomenal trade. Here's the reason why. While Blake Griffin base value is better than DeAndre Jordan, the second player that you contributed in the trade, Kyle Korver, let's be real, he's a throwaway player. I mean, what did he average? 2 points in the last 5 games? Let's be real, that is not worthy of even keeping in the bench. And I can see why, Brian took him, because he's not thinking about Kyle Korver. He's thinking about Blake Griffin in the long run, and he's got the record to hold him over. But it makes sense. Goran Dragic, to me, you mentioned that he must be getting used to the system, new to the system, whatever, and he's not going to be the player that he was in Phoenix. Granted, I agree with you. But when I look at the Miami Heat, the powerhouses in terms of talent and scoring goes D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and it's not Hassan Whiteside, it's Goran Dragic. So to me, that potential is there for him to have a great production. And much like the Heat in the past years, they kind of always start off to a slump start. But the good thing is, towards midseason, they pick it up, they go towards a playoff push, and they're consistently better second half of the season. And him, he came over from the trade, I think it was last year. He had a great second half of the season. He had pretty damn good numbers with Wade, and I don't even think Bosh was there. So with Bosh, his assist should be a little bit more consistent. His field goal is going to be a little bit higher, and I think he's a pretty good free throw shooter. And he could score enough points to average maybe like 15, 16 points, which is going to be great for you because you got 2 solidified players from giving up one person. Granted, Blake Griffin is really good. He scores, he rebounds, great free throw, solid field goal. But if you don't care about 2 of those cats, then whatever you got in return, I think it's a huge upside for you, and I think you win that trade.
Yeah, and I will say this in defense of Brian, the player who traded away DeAndre Jordan. Before this trade, he was very close to last free throw percentage. He was only ahead of the team that had Andre Drummond. Now that he's rid of DeAndre Jordan, looking at some of the other free throw shooters he has, I think he's going to be pretty good in that category now. He has Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Dirk, Kent Bazemore, all shooting in the high 80s. Then Al Horford's also over 80. Brook Lopez is just a tick under 80. And those are the guys on his team who attempt most of the free throws. I would say Derrick Rose is kind of having an off year, shooting 72%, but historically has been better than that. Of course, it's very much open to debate whether Derrick Rose can ever hit any kind of shot again, free throw or field goal, but that's neither here nor there. So, yeah, like we mentioned before, DeAndre's free throw score was minus 0.8. Blake Griffin's is only minus 0.6. So that's going to be a huge upgrade for Brian there. So I honestly think this was a pretty good trade for both sides. Yeah, definitely something to look at if you're a Blake Griffin owner. I think you'd be hard pressed to make out better than Daniel did. A lot of people are probably going to lowball you for Blake, and if you're in a position to make the playoffs anyway, I wouldn't take a lowball offer for him. He's just a little too good. We mentioned the Phoenix Suns and Goran Dragic, who used to kill it over there. These days, not as many good things are happening in Phoenix. Eric Bledsoe also went down with an injury. Unlike Blake, he's expected to be out at least 6 weeks. So depending on your playoff schedule for fantasy, that might take you all the way up until the playoffs start. And that's if it's the actual minimum of 6 weeks. He might be out longer. He might play limited minutes for a couple weeks when he finally does get back. And he might get shut down towards the end of the year because Phoenix is going to be very much out of it by the time he sees the court again. Luckily, none of us own Eric Bledsoe. I certainly was trying to acquire him aggressively earlier in the year.
Dodge the bullet.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely sent a few offers for Bledsoe. I considered drafting him at 23, but I thought that was a little too high. There are a few other players. Based on how he's played so far, he would have easily been worth a 23rd pick. But with him out possibly until the fantasy playoffs start, and not sure how many minutes you're going to get out of him when he's back, what would you guys be doing with Eric Bledsoe if you owned him?
It's tough to say because, I mean, like you said, this is going to take us. I mean, by the time he returns, it's going to be close to playoff time. And the issue.
Yeah, I think we should mention for our league we do 3 rounds of playoffs and 2 weeks for each round. I think more leagues than not, they just do 1 week per round. So if you play in one of those leagues, you'll probably have a little bit of time, and he'll probably be back before the playoffs start. But then again, he might not play a lot even then.
Yeah, it's risky business dealing with somebody with a big injury like that, because for the first couple of weeks, they're not going to be playing him. He's not going to go right back in the game and go back to his 35 minutes a game. They're going to ease him in, and then obviously with terrible teams, you also have the risk of you have an injured star that's the future of the team. You're clearly not going to make the playoff. What incentive do you have to run this guy? And it just strikes me as a situation in which Phoenix is going to be out of it. He's going to be coming in pretty late. So I wouldn't trade for him, and if I had him, I might kind of start shopping him around. I just don't know if he's going to get back to full speed, or if Phoenix is going to give him the full swing of minutes, or what's been popular these days with Derrick Rose and other players is just deciding to say, let's call it a year. Let's get a better draft pick. Let's throw in the towel for this year and let him come back when he's 100%.
Yeah, we definitely saw kind of the same thing with Carmelo Anthony last year. He probably could have come back and played a little, but those were absolutely toilet water at that point. Go ahead.
My first thought is shop him. Shop him, shop him, shop him. I mean, the way I look at it, a couple of things you have to take into factor. It's the Western Conference. The Phoenix, as it stands right now, they're in the 12th. Eric Bledsoe is a huge part of that offense. If you don't have one of your primary scorers, not your number one scorer, I don't know where the other guy ranks, but if you don't have him, who's your leading point guard, that moves your offense, the odds are you're not really going forward. You have issues with your other players in your roster. You have issues with your coaching staff. The odds are people are going to get tanked in the next couple of weeks, and they're probably just going to break down the whole thing and probably consider rebuilding from the get-go. And when you look at that, Bledsoe is your primetime player. That guy is your franchise player. You paid him a lot of money, and he's going to be out at least 6 weeks. And I think that's maybe conservative. If you bring him back after 6 weeks and you're well out of the playoffs picture, why would you even want him to play? Don't risk it. I mean, it makes no sense from a franchise perspective to make him play when you could just let him sit out the rest of the summer and heal completely well. So, I mean, if I am the owner of the team, I am shopping him for whatever it's worth, because I don't think personally on my team he holds any value. If nobody's biting on my trade offers and I see a good pickup on the waiver wire, I'm going to drop him and move on, because you can't hold on to talent while letting somebody else buy that can contribute to your team. If there's no point, he's not going to add value to your team because he's not coming back. I'm sold on.
That's definitely fair. I just want to take a minute to memorialize him, because he was just having just an amazing, fantastic year, and it really kind of pisses me off. Even though I don't own him, it just kind of sucks that he's not going to play most of the rest of the year. It looks like, or I mean, at least 6 weeks. God, I hope I don't end up playing Jonathan in the playoffs if this happens, but it would be nice if he comes back and plays a little. He was averaging 20 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 0.6 blocks. He's one of these few guards who's going to give you a block here and there, and 1.5 threes. Just crazy, wild numbers.
Wow.
Another stat about him I mentioned in my weekly write-up yesterday was that there's only 4 players who, ignoring turnovers, are more valuable than him and don't have any negatives right now. And that was Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford. So
Wow.
he was just having an incredible year. Now let's take a look at the waiver wire. Let's say you were the unfortunate owner of Eric Bledsoe. Would you drop him for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope right now?
I mean, I think it depends on your team, and so
Let me throw out his stats. On the year, he's averaging 14 points, 1.4 threes, 1.6 steals. Last 15 days, he's kind of hot. He's averaging 16 points and 1.8 threes. So but go ahead with what you're going to
Okay, one of the things I was just gonna say is, well, it depends. If in your league you have an injury reserve spot, then you could stash them like that. But in our league, we only have 3 bench spots, so
and no injured reserve.
No injury reserve. So to me, it's not an issue stashing 1 injured player, but in my situation, once you get to 2 injured players or have a couple that are day-to-day, that's when it really starts affecting you, and you kind of aren't able to play certain players that may have more games since your bench is pretty much filled with injured people. So I think definitely if your team is fully healthy, I wouldn't mind stashing them at least for a couple of weeks and kind of seeing where it goes. But if you're already hanging on to like a Rudy Gobert, Bradley Beal, Blake Griffin, and that are already taking up one of your spots on your bench, I mean, I think this might be somebody you definitely should shop or consider dropping, because you just can't hang on to too many injured players. Because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna return later than their expected timetable. I think Westbrook is the only exception that he's gonna come back before they actually say that, but anybody else, I mean, if they say 6 weeks, expect 7 to 8. If they say 2 weeks for Blake, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 3 or 4.
Yeah, because as disappointing as the Clippers have been, I think they're still comfortably going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to need him to fight for a spot. They might prefer to, fight for that 4 seed so they can host the opening series. But just given like the state of the 7, 8, 9, 10 seeds in the West, I don't think they're worried about those teams passing them.
If I'm dropping Eric Bledsoe, I'm thinking I pick up somebody with a little bit more potential. I mean, I know he's a starting player, but he's the whore of our fantasy league. Let's be real. He's been used and abused so many times over. Nobody wants him. Yeah, Kentavious, that is. I mean, people picking up, do them, then drop them. Don't even pay him. That's how bad it is, But if I'm dropping Bledsoe, I want to think about potentially somebody that can contribute or has the possibility that they can get better as the season goes. And I think Kentavious kind of showed that this is the type of player he is. He's going to have one game where he's got 18 and 4 that follows with 7 points and like 10% shooting. So, I mean, if I'm going down the list, the first thing that's going to come up to my mind is going to be D'Angelo Russell. Now, he's a young
That was going to be the next guy I suggested.
Yeah. So, I mean, he would be number 1 on my list because he's a young point guard. He's talented. He's a high-ranked pick. And, he's always got a potential of starting again. And, I think the coach said he's only coming off the bench for maybe like 6 to 10 games, whatever it is. Even when he's coming off the bench, he plays a decent amount of minutes. And I think as the season goes, the Lakers are slowly going to start shutting down Kobe, and there might be a chance that he gets a little bit more playing minutes. And you could always gamble on the fact that they're not going to just bench him. He's a rookie. He needs some playing time experience. So he's going to come back to the starting role soon enough, and he's not going to give you great numbers. It's a learning curve for him. He might have some turnovers, some bad shooting nights, but he's a smart player. So he might just give you valuable stats that you need, maybe a couple of assists here and there, some steals. He's a good free throw shooter. So things like that. So I'm thinking long-term if I'm dropping Bledsoe.
Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, given the choice between the two, I definitely would prefer to pick up Russell than Pope at this point. I'd probably hang on to Bledsoe a little longer, maybe get a better idea in a week or two of when he's actually going to be back and if they're going to severely limit his minutes. Not minute his limits, limit his minutes when he gets back. But, yeah, I'd definitely be looking at somebody like Russell, who at least has a little more upside in a lot of cats. Cause, yeah, Caldwell Pope at this point is pretty much some points, some threes, and a handful of steals. All right, and yeah, and while we're on the subject of Bledsoe, we might want to talk about the Suns in general. There's been a lot going on there lately. First, we had Markieff Morris throw a towel at Jeff Hornacek, which I can't believe that just happened. It seems like the kind of thing that must have happened several times already, knowing all we do.
Or maybe it's the first time we're hearing about it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we heard about it, so he was suspended by the team for 2 games in light of that incident. Over the weekend, 2 of Hornacek's assistants are fired, and now there's speculation that Hornacek himself is going to be on the way out. So, do you guys have any thoughts about Hornacek? Does he deserve the boot? If he gets booted, would you like to see him come coach the Bulls?
Oh, yeah. Are we jumping ahead now? I mean, look, I think he's a good coach by all means, and I think he picked up a mediocre Suns team and made him a competitor. I don't think this is on him by any chance, but like we kind of discussed earlier, there is no job security in the NBA when it comes to coaching, for God's sake. You know, like George Karl, you can win coach of the year. It doesn't really matter. If they want you out, you're out the door. And that's going to be his case. I mean, unfortunately, as good as he is, I think he's going to get the boot, and he's going to be out of there. He's going to be out of a job. But I don't know what direction they go next. I think they have to completely think about rebuilding. Bledsoe's going to come back next year. They have a good roster. I'm sure Markieff is going to get moved somewhere. Also, on my potential pickup list might be Markieff because he could be a valuable player in some other team. You know, he's just stupid, but he's got talent. But I mean, Suns, they got to go in rebuilding mode. They can't do anything about it. Honestly, if they're smart, they should keep him because there's not a lot of good coaches out there except for Alcoy Thibs, which I'm still praying sometimes come back to the Bulls. But that's a whole different story. But I mean, Suns, I think it's kind of set at this point which direction they're going for the rest of this season and what they plan on doing starting next season. So.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that these coaches in the NBA have such unrealistic expectations. There's times in which the casual fan will look at a roster and be like, "Oh, that's a pretty good team, but are they really good enough to contend for a title?" No, and yet it seems like every owner expects their team to be competing for a title when clearly they don't have a roster for it. This Phoenix Suns team is solid. The issues I feel are not even Hornacek related. Those were management moves. Them not moving Marcus Morris during the summer, that had nothing to do with Hornacek yet. Just causing tension and probably going to end with Hornacek losing his job. I mean, to me, I think the interesting nugget of that situation is the fact that Marcus Morris is playing really well in Detroit. So kind of when you're thinking of Markieff, it's like, can he really be upset that his brother got traded and is now doing really well? It kind of...
Yeah.
I mean, he would not be a starter in Phoenix, and he would not be getting his 35 minutes a game, possibly. So
he would be fending off John Lure and Mirza Teletovic for minutes.
So at the end of the day, it kind of seems silly that Markieff is upset because his brother got traded, who is now doing really well. So I don't know, kind of a weird situation there. But I think, yeah, at the end of the day, Markieff is definitely going to get moved. I think this 2-game suspension and because of the towel thrown, I think that was like the last straw. I mean, I thought at first the situation could be salvaged, but now I'm certain it's not. I think they're gonna shop him around. And yeah, the fantasy spin, as Tommy noted, if he goes to the right situation, he could be a valuable fantasy player. If he goes to a team where he gets the starting role and is playing 30, 35 minutes a game, I would definitely keep an eye and be one of the first people to snag him off the waiver wire.
I'm putting an alert, Daniel. Back off.
Well, and thanks to this podcast, everybody else in our league knows about it. So
damn it, Smokey, don't post this.
Oh, it's too late. It's already live. I mean, I could not. It's too late. No, it's way too late. But anyway, just one other last thing on this whole Markieff situation, I think has been overlooked by most lamestream media outlets, where an old teammate of Markieff's defending him on Twitter. So what's her name? Paula Boivin? Paula Boivin of the Arizona Republic wrote a column about Markieff Morris saying, "Congratulations, Markieff, you finally got what you wanted by throwing a towel at your coach. They have to trade you." And Marcin Gortat was not very happy with this columnist, and I'll just quickly read his tweets in reply to the columnist when the person posted their column to Twitter. Anyway, so he said, "I don't know who you are, lady, to say this like that. MM," referring to Markieff, "is talented player, and just because he ain't playing great now doesn't give you right to say all those things. He is too young to be put in this category you talking about. Last 2 years he didn't have any vet who would help him with stuff around the team. He's not supposed to do towel thing. Clearly he's frustration. You have no idea how it's to compete at this level. I've been with this kid since day one. He's getting better every year." Well, not this year. "And just because team struggles doesn't mean it's his fault. He could play better just as another 14 players on the roster." And then after that, random people reply to him and tell him to shut his mouth, and he just calls them all dum-dums. But, that was pretty entertaining.
that is.
I agree. He's not supposed to do a towel thing, but maybe. I mean, Marcin Gortat, who has been playing fairly well, maybe if he was still teammates with Markieff, he would straighten up and act right. I'm sure if I did something out of line and Marcin Gortat told me to knock it off, I would listen, because that is one large, angry Polish man.
Man, talking about Marcin Gortat, what the hell? He is putting us some phenomenal numbers. I am mad hating.
People, yeah, I mean, he can, people can talk all the mess they want about Marcin Gortat, but he's been letting his play do the talking lately. Let me just look at his last 15 days. Last 15 days, he is averaging 18 and 10, 1.7 blocks, shooting 54% from the field, 80% from the line. He's averaging a steal a game, which is great for your center to be doing that.
Wow,
He's just been on an absolute tear.
And to think he was on your bench while I played you and I didn't even have a chance. Jesus, come on.
Well, what can I say? Sometimes.
It's a fluke, Smokes. It's a fluke. Don't get excited. I'm coming back. Do I play you again?
No, we don't play again. That's it. That was your chance.
It's okay. You're top of the ladder anyways. I don't need a tiebreaker against you.
I know everybody's going to be gunning for me. Everybody's going to people are going to try to start loading up. I think maybe that's what Brian had in mind, because they know I have James Harden. They have to load up on free throws. And now Brian's going to he got rid of DeAndre so he can compete with me in that category. But anyway, yeah, Marcin Gortat, balling out of control in real life and with the angry tweets on Twitter. Maybe possibly related? I'm not sure. But anyway, another player who's been not quite balling out of control, but certainly flirting with the very borders of control would be Jarrett Jack. Now he's not having an all-star caliber year, but from where he's been lately, he's had a pretty solid bounce back. It's the first year since 2012, since the lockout season, that he's getting over 30 minutes a game, and he's certainly making the most of it. He's averaging 13 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, which has got to rank pretty high. I'll check exactly where that is, but that's got to be top 10. A steal, a three-pointer, pretty good free throw percentage, just an abysmal field goal percentage and 3 turnovers a game, so it's not all sunshine and roses. But just a solid season from a player who has been with, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's on his 9th team, I think.
Wow.
No, that sounds like too many. 1, 2,
That sounds
4,
like
5, 6, 7th team. Still quite a lot. But what do you guys think about Jared Jack rest of season? Do you think we can expect 13 and 7 from him or from here on out, or do you think he's gonna turn back into the Jared Jack of old?
To me, I say yes because I don't think 13 and 7 is over the top expectations for him. I mean, he plays on a Nets team that has little to no talent. He might be a top tier player there. I mean, whatever assists he's going to get, whatever team assists they have is probably going to come from him. Let's be real, Joe Johnson is not the most pass first guy in the world, so his daddy is young. So, and, we're talking about 13 points. I mean, I'm pretty sure I might be able to get 13 points in the NBA. Just kidding. Just kidding. But, 13 and 7, yes. I mean, he doesn't really do much of anything else. So 13 and 7, I think that's a realistic expectation, and that's fine. He's I wouldn't even say he's middle of the pack. He's probably like slightly under middle of the pack. He's a solid backup to have in the bench, maybe, sure.
Yeah, right now he's at 72 on the player rater. Not anything special, but a decent year. I think the one worry you might have about Jared Jack is that the Nets might decide they want to trade him for assets, and in all likelihood, if he goes to another team, he would have a reduced role.
You run to the TV and get my battery.
That's the one concern I would have. He could get traded to a team that needs a backup point guard. Like, gee whiz, I mean, the Clippers, probably don't want to roll out Austin Rivers in every playoff game like they did last year.
But he's Doc's favorite player.
I mean, at the end of the day, going back to Jared Jack, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets have nothing. I mean, I think as long as you have nobody fighting you for minutes and you're going to be on the court 35 minutes, you're going to get stats. You're going to put up stats. And I mean, I think that's why some of these terrible teams can be fantasy gold, like the Sixers for a while.
There's a ton of fantasy value in Brooklyn this year. Brook Lopez he's finally been healthy. I mean, we're always kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop with him. But right now he's at 24 on the player rater. And there's also Thaddeus Young. He's having his best season in years. He's cracking the top 50. Joe Johnson just hasn't been able to shoot, so he hasn't been super duper useful. But you also had Rondé Hollis Jefferson before he was hurt, was a nice out of position rebounds and steals guy. So yeah, Brooklyn is kind of shall we say, a beehive for you to harvest the honey from.
Yeah, I'm just looking right now at the players who are backing up Jared Jack. So his competition for minutes are Shane Larkin and Donald Sloan. So,
all right, that's that, I guess.
Not too intense there, the competition. So I think he should be able to hang on to 30-plus minutes every single night.
Yeah, Donald Sloan is definitely universally regarded as a bum at this point. Shane Larkin's still young.
He's not a rookie, is he?
No, not a rookie. He was with Dallas his first couple of years. I think it must only be his third year. If I remember correctly, I hope I'm not just making this up because of his last name, but I think he's the son of Hall of Famer Gary Larkin.
Yes.
Yes, that is true. I didn't make that up. So, I mean, if he's half as good as his dad was at baseball, he might eventually be a decent player. I don't think that's a good way to project players, but he can get some steals. In 19 minutes a game, he's at about 1.3 steals. So if he was getting 30 minutes a game, he'd easily be a 2 steals guy. So there's a little something there, but he'd have to really step it up to really sort of take the job away from Jack, so to speak.
And just a heads up, I mean, I'm right now checking stats going on of what's happening on the Monday night, and
Naturally.
Steph Curry just surprises me as usual. Has 0 points in the first quarter, gets subbed in halfway through the second, and has 17 at halftime. So somehow dropped 17 points in a span of
I don't know if
6
you're
minutes.
upset or bragging. What is that?
This is unreal. How he goes from like putting up a donut in like 18, like in the first 18 minutes of the game, and then just in a span of 5-6 minutes has 17 points and 5 3-pointers.
Yeah, that is pretty surprising. I remember looking, because you mentioned it while we were talking before the broadcast started that he hadn't scored yet. Perhaps even more surprising. I'm refreshing my page just to make sure I'm not looking at like cumulative stats from like the weekend or something. But Omri Caspi in the first half has 26 points and 7 3-pointers, and this is against Golden State.
Hold on, whoa! You're not kidding. 7
I need you guys
3-pointers?
to look. I need you guys to look and make sure.
It is 26 points at the half. He's on pace for 50.
Wait, who is?
Omri Caspi. Yeah, he's
I'm
never
picking
been,
him up. I'm picking it up.
I hate to break it to you, but of all people, Nate picked him up earlier today.
Oh,
He
God.
must
Before this game?
before this game. Yeah, he started him this week.
I'm sorry, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? Because sometimes
Yeah,
I feel
no,
like
go
I
ahead.
need to.
How does
Let it out.
this got to be the biggest fluke ever? Like you pick somebody up and some nobody goes for 50.
Yeah, so Caspi, he was having the best year of his career already. I'm looking at his averages. I'm pretty sure they don't include tonight. So even before tonight, he was averaging 12 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.7 threes, and he was shooting 51% from the field, getting just under 30 minutes a game. I think a lot of it has to do with Willie Cauley-Stein being out. He's gotten a lot of the minutes that would have been going to Cauley-Stein, but he's just shooting the lights out. It seems like he's kind of running hot in terms of his percentages. I'll look them up, but you guys can continue to swear about how bizarre this is in the
So
media.
I'm calling a fluke game? Fluke game?
One hit wonder. I mean, he's gonna score like 4 points next game. I mean, there's no way this is by any means sustainable. I mean, he's probably gonna do well with Cauley-Stein injured, but don't expect this.
Yeah, so in his career, so previous seasons, let's just look at the last 4 seasons. He shot 39% from the field and 32% from 3. The year before that, he shot 42% from the field and 34% from 3. Last year, with his first year with Sacramento, shot 48%, 40% from 3. Still only playing 21 minutes a game, though. This year, like I said, he's shooting 51% from the field, 46%, almost 46% from 3. So
It's working on his
I don't
shot
know.
during the summer.
I don't know, but it seems like he likes Sacramento. He's a better fit there, probably. I really don't know what to make of it. I mean, he's averaging career highs in rebounds, threes, points, everything. Even steals, even though that's just at 0.8 per game. But yeah, I think he's been kind of a guy you wanted to own in deeper leagues, 14-team leagues to this point. If he's still available in any of your 10 or 12-team leagues, I think you got to go pick him up right now because he's going to keep getting minutes at least till Cauley-Stein's back. But yeah, that's good. Let's take a glance at the box score and see if anything else truly bizarre has happened tonight.
Steph Curry with 10 rebounds at halftime.
Shut
As
up.
well.
You. Don't come over there, Daniel.
How can he be grabbing so many rebounds if Omri Caspi is shooting the lights out? That's what I want to know.
You're a 2.5, Daniel. You're a 2.5.
And Darren Collison. Ooh, solid pickup on my part.
What does he got?
His field goal's not so great, but he has 8 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals at the half.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're willing to run. Well, Rondo only has 5 minutes. Oh, foul trouble. That's why.
Yeah, Darren Collison's a solid player. Yeah, he's someone I like. I owned him very briefly. But
Jeez, Steph Curry's going to get a triple-double by, like, end of third quarter.
Yeah, Steph Curry's definitely on triple-double watch. He's already got the points and the rebounds. Just needs 4 more assists. The question is, if he's so hot he has to keep shooting himself, will he get there?
Win-win on my end, so.
Nothing. I don't see anything too crazy. Vucevic had 7 assists tonight. That's pretty unusual. That might be a career high.
And I mean, I feel like I'm being a little biased here, but it's just shouting out for my own players. But Nerlens showing signs of life with 18 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and 5 blocks. I don't think I've seen him get 5 blocks at least this past month. His blocking has definitely been atrocious this season. I mean, he's been averaging more steals than blocks, and so it's nice to kind of see him putting those long hands to use.
That's kind of interesting. I think I hate to be so quick to decide reasons for why these things happen, but Ish Smith just joined the team on December 26th, and in both of those games, Noel has been pretty good. He had 14 and 11 with 3 steals and 2 blocks in his first game with Ish Smith, and went 6 of 7 from the field. I would wonder if that might have something to do with it.
Okafor also not playing, which could also.
I mean, remember that Ish Smith was with the Sixers towards the end of the year last year, and that's when Noel's offense was really starting to be not horrible. So, yeah, there really might be something to that.
Did Nate also pick up Ish Smith?
Yeah. He did. What did Ish Smith do today? Let's check.
22 and 11, I believe.
22 and 11 for Ish Smith. That's...
Wait, what? 22 and 11? Wow, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we talked about the as I called it, the revolving door of clown shoes in Philadelphia at point guard. I think they've solved that problem, at least for the time being. Yeah, 22 and 11, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. He did only shoot 8 of 21, but he was 5 of 5 at the line. Ish Smith, pretty nice. This is one of the problems I started to face. These are some nice pickups that Nate's made. I'm at the point where, in our relatively shallow league, I'm not sure I have anybody that I want to drop at this point. I think like probably the guy who's playing the worst right now is Tommy's boy George Hill.
Fuck your George Hill.
George Hill. He did have a decent week last week. He had 15 points, 20 points, had a bunch of steals. But what do you think, Tommy? Should I drop George Hill for D'Angelo Russell?
Yes. I'm not gonna say anything more. You should. George Hill is a crummy player. All right. He's like a 4th-tier player. He gave you a phenomenal week. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I lost to you. Great. That is fine. But you know what? This guy is surprisingly not that consistent. Every time I look at him, I go, oh, wow. You see that? He looks like he's got some potential. He's a talented player. He's kind of physically fit. He looks like he's got that aggressive mentality. Maybe it's stupid blonde hair. Maybe he lost a couple of skill set points after he got the blonde hair. I don't know. but he's not consistent. All right, you got possibly the guy with the most upside on that team that you picked up from the waiver wire, which is Monte Ellis. I don't know why you would even want to waste your time on George Hill, because if Monte's doing well and CJ Miles is hitting shots, it's been shown that George Hill, game after game, just kind of disappears. So why are you wasting your time? You got the best guy with the most potential on that team in your roster, in your lineup. Go after some other guy that has a higher potential in another team. And let's be real. Paul George takes like 18, 19 shots. CJ takes like 12. Monte takes like another 15. George Hill ain't got no shots left in him.
That's the thing, though. Monte hasn't been taking. What is he averaging this year? It's certainly not 15.
He had a phenomenal game today.
Yeah,
but that's the thing, though. I mean, he's been crappy all the season, but I think he's going to prime for a good second half of the season.
That's the thing, but if all those guys are going great, that's just going to open things up for Hill to knock down corner threes, that's pretty much what he's done.
Wait,
he's been pretty reliable on the 3-point.
That's CJ's job. He's not taking CJ's job. F that guy, bro. F that guy.
If you want to talk about consistency, let's look at George Hill's 3-point percentage year to year. 2011, 37%. 2012, 36.7%. 2013, 36.8%. 2014, 36.5%. 2015, 35.8%, but on more attempts. And this year, 39.7%. You can bank this guy. You can take it to the bank that he's going to shoot between 36 and 38%.
Yeah, and he's going to give you like 2 threes while CJ gives you like 9 a game.
Oh,
CJ Miles. Do we want to talk about CJ Miles?
No, we don't, because I didn't pay attention to
I
CJ
think
until
you want me
this
to
year.
pull up CJ Miles' career stats.
Let's not.
They are
Let's not. You might convince me to drop him. Let's not.
No, I think CJ Miles has been. I can't really knock what he's done this year. He's definitely been very good. He's hitting 2.8 each game. Actually, CJ Miles has been sneaky good the past couple of years. It's just been 2013, 2014. He was only getting 20 minutes a game. He was hitting 2 threes a game. Well, not quite. It was 1.6 in 2014, and not much else. Just not 10 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Last year, he was starting to be kind of useful. 13 points, 3 rebounds, a steal, and the 2 threes. This year, he's just demanding it with the 2.8 threes. That's what I like to call out of control. So no, I can't knock CJ's game, but I do think George Hill is a little safer, if less sexy. But that's why he's on my team and Miles is on your team, I guess, because I'm safe and you're the sexy one. I'm the safe one and you're the sexy one. But yeah, that should about do it for us today. Hopefully we came in under 50 minutes this time. If you like the podcast, rate, comment, subscribe, all those things people who are douches say on YouTube and all that. And we will be back next week with more fantasy basketball goodness. See you later. Until then.